Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Christy, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of.
Hello, Beth. And we're so back. Another coffee chat with Christy and Susanne. Today's topic is Stop prioritizing your work over your mental, physical, and spiritual health. So before we get started, as always, let's recap our week. What's been going on, Christy? Tell me.
Yeah, it's such interesting discoveries this past week of awareness is so funny that you can literally go for decades and have behaviors that you never realize you have. And then one day they're just so clear. So I had that this week, this like huge aha moment of how did I never realize that this was a habit? So one of my behaviors is to take something that's new and to look at it with eyes of like instant complication. So like the only way, it's kind of a little cliche, but I don't have another way to describe it, of making a mountain out of a molehill. So something that's really not that big of a deal, that like pretty much could have a straight path, but you decide to take every U-turn in every kind of crazy way to get to the task or whatever it is. So I realized that several times this week that I had been overcomplicating many things that were just kind of piling on one another that was making me just stagnant, that really had really simple solutions that I was clear enough to come to the conclusion to this past week. And it happened multiple times this week, where it was like, once I went through one of them, it was like I noticed all of them. Yeah. So it was really cool because I feel like a lot of weight has lifted. And also I've been able to have a sense of humor about it, about how like silly and funny it is that, you know, I've had some of these things on my plate for 2 months that I haven't moved on because I was just making them too complicated, or, you know, the first way didn't work and I was getting frustrated and thinking it was more complicated than it was because the first route didn't work. So I had a big aha, and I did realize, I did reflect that is a very, very, very common behavior that I've had pretty much my whole life. That's a big part of the feelings of overwhelm and anxiety that I had in my life, were a lot of times when I created something like this. So I feel great that I've actually found the awareness of this. Yeah.
This is huge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. Thanks. Oh my gosh. Shining the light on it is like, oh man, it lifts up that pressure and the weight that we're feeling, you know, thinking that that's the only way and I am this way and it's always going to be that way.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Thanks. And you?
Oh, wow. So I started my week off with traveling and nothing. And I mean, literally nothing went the way that it was planned. And I'm sorry, like an A-type as me and a really spoiled by choice woman, I found myself in a space that I used to be in. And I'm going to blame everybody else for what's going on versus taking responsibility and saying, okay, what can I control right now? And I didn't even realize that I was going there until my husband pointed out, hey, what are you doing here? you're a little bee. Don't do that. You can come from a place of love. Like you can choose that, which was a rude, kind, loving awakening that I really needed because I don't know, anxiety started broiling back up in me. So I just didn't have, I think I wasn't really taking care of myself. And that was the ripple effect, which ties beautifully into our topic today. And the a lower vibration version of myself showed up. And it just kept coming. The universe just kept putting things in my way and saying, okay, how fast can you pivot? How fast can you reframe, change your perspective? And I was sitting in the CFO meeting I had for Rice Media on Friday, and I said, listen, like this whole trip has been a lesson in reframing. I think I'm supposed to learn very quickly on how to look at things in a different way. And this is why we're here today. Let's always be open. There is no just one way. There is no I can't or it can't be done. There is always a way. And I think that will be one of Rice Media's missions, that there's always a way. We just have to change our perspective. We are going to reframe. And I just found it so beautifully how this all tied in together. Yeah, so that's my week. I'm a little tired. And I gave myself this morning the grace not to push myself out of bed at 5 a.m., but just let the phone turn off the alarm and sleep and wake up when I was ready.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually been doing that for the last 4 weeks. Yeah. And you know what? It's actually been a really nice release of a have to that doesn't necessarily feel in alignment anymore, because just like we're going to talk about today, I've realized the rules that I've set on myself of, you have to be up at such and such a time because you have to do this, and this is what you want, and here are your goals and whatever. That isn't always what I require. That isn't always for my highest good, even though my goals might be for my highest good, or I might think that they are at the time. By sticking to those so solidly and not listening to what I need, isn't always for my highest good. And that has been something that I've really had to discover, is taking away all the rules of what defines discipline, or the high performance and the achievement and the discipline and all of those things. Like, there still is room, in my world at least, to listen to what I need. Like, whether that's to not set an alarm, whether that's to take a break in the afternoon, whether that's to put this pile that I have because I'm exhausted today to tomorrow because it's time to take care of me. That's been a big shift for me, and I'm feeling more whole now, allowing myself to take away the paradigm of what is success, or what is disciplined, or what is efficient, and all of those things, is to not let those definitions deplete me. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue into, well, let's talk about why we should stop, really, truly stop. I mean, we could make this episode really, really short and say, well, just don't, because it's not good for you. And we're living proof, and a million, trillion, whatever other people are proof of that too. But let's dive a little bit into, why are we actually choosing? And I had a conversation yesterday with somebody that was in the same company. And she said, like, enough is enough. I have been chasing success for 40 somewhat years, and I always reached it in some way, but I never had I don't even know what joy is in my life. I don't have an outlet. I just work. And I could so relate to that because that was me. And even with building Rice Media now, I really have to and started to, just like you, ask different questions. Like I did not want to recreate that rut, that rat race of 12, 14 hours a day. I understand that there are days that may be required, and I will go into these days fueled, right? But it's not every day, because it's not sustainable. Now, let's start here. Why do you think we actually do that? Like, why do we find that rescue in work?
For me, it was the achievements and the road to success was my vehicle to feel worthy. Mm-hmm. And really, that's as simple as that for me. It was a way to fill my worthiness and love cup that I didn't know how to myself. And I thought that if I wasn't successful, or I wasn't, hitting achievements or doing things that would allow people to acknowledge me in a certain way, that I was nothing. And I will actually make that kind of a bold statement, because I know that that's how I felt.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think listening to other people, that's where we put our worth into, because we've been taught as little kids already that in order to be seen or enough, we have to achieve certain benchmarks, right? We have to get, I don't know, be potty trained and write and read and get an A+ and go to college.
Gold stars on the board.
What's that?
The gold, like literally the gold star stickers. I don't know if you ever had that, but
no, we didn't.
Oh, we had that. We had things on like the walls in the classrooms of like, and someone would get a gold star if they did something right, and who had more gold stars. And it's the competitive programming that we get introduced to very little, that it's innate that we compete against each other.
And then it becomes a habit, right?
Yeah.
It's something we just can't detach anymore from, because our body literally has become addicted to it.
Yeah.
And where I would say I started asking myself different questions was when I laid in, okay, how do I want this to look? Like, how do I actually want to feel? Because I know how I felt the other 3-4 businesses prior, and it always ended up somewhere in a hospital or somewhere completely being not only disengaged, but hating and saying, I never want to go there again, and cutting everything off. And I don't want this for Rice Media. I want to grow with the company. I want to be the person that can hold the vision, and that the vision is always higher to where we are at the moment, because that's the only way we can really truly improve our world, right? We're having that vision and then pulling it in through other people. And when I realized that, okay, I have to change the way I am behaving, and not getting back into this rut of working and putting work before anything else, and actually applying what I've learned over the past 2 years, that even though it's hard, even though we believe we don't deserve it because our needs were never met. That's the reason why we think we don't deserve self-care. That's the reason why we think it is selfish, because our needs actually were never met. Not as a child, not as a teenager, never in our lives. This is why self-care, taking care of your needs, leaning in, understanding what it actually feels like to have joy and fulfillment, right? Yeah. That these are not woo-hoo-y feelings, that is actually it. That's that's as good as it gets. And when we're at that point, we actually can create so much more. We can fill other people's cup. We can bring them along. So repeating history over and over and over again is not going to serve anybody. It's not going to serve you. It is not going to serve your community, the people that you influence, the people that are looking up to you. Nobody really,
Right.
except our egos. Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly it. Is it, when you're coming at something with that energy, that's a lack energy. And so you don't feel enough. You're looking for something else to fill you up. So even if your intentions behind these goals or to create these businesses or whatever it is for an ultimate good or to help other people, there's still an underlying energy of lack and dare I say even like desperation behind your actions. So you're clouding the good that might be behind these goals for yourself and for other people, because there is that anxiety, that lack, that kind of thing underneath it.
So can we then say that this unworthiness really, that is why we're putting our time and effort and energy just in something that we believe fills our cup back up? Is that why it is?
I think so. I think so.
Me too.
From my perspective and what I've observed with myself, it's, if I end up there, it's always because I go back to needing that thing to feel a certain way. So I have to constantly check in on myself when I say, where I set a goal or I, have a vision, or if I'm journaling of what an ideal life is, I now will say, why do you want that? Why is that important to you? And that has changed a lot of things, because it's made me go from, I'm looking for this title, I'm looking for this, I want to be another, like, well, for an example, I always wanted to be a best-selling author, just to say I was a best-selling author, like literally. And I am a best-selling author, but it literally didn't make me feel any differently. And it did at this point, like, it doesn't even excite me to say it, because I'm not looking for someone to applaud me anymore. I'm not looking for someone to then look at me a different way because of that. So if someone treats me a certain way, they don't know anything about me, they don't know my accolades, they don't know whatever, and they're matching my energy and we have a good energy exchange, that's all I need. If we don't, but then we do after you find out I'm a best-selling author, that's when that kind of stuff isn't in resonance with me anymore. And that used to be what I achieved, because I assumed that they wouldn't feel I was enough until they knew X, Y, and Z about me. So goals like that now, yeah, it's very different. There's a lot of stuff that I've crossed off my list because it was just simply to say international speaker, best-selling author, this and that. I'm just not quite frankly, I'm bored by that. It's in terms of me, of like racking up the accolades. What feels in alignment with me? What do I feel called to do? What do I have the creative juices to put my energy into? That stuff excites me now. It's very, very different.
Don't you think though that we were taught that way? I mean, let's just set like everybody else's education aside, but through ballet and dance training, I mean, it was all about, oh, you did 3 periods, okay, you get an extra gold star. You may just be able, if you can repeat it, land that job too. So in order to hit that triple period over and over and over again, you need to work 50 hours a week, at least in the studio, and then plus some. And where does that lead us, right? like the more we're depleting our resources in ourselves, the harder it is going to get to refill them. And the I would say the deeper the hole is that we're falling into, because once you hit this certain point of complete emptiness, it will take forever to get back to where you feel some sort of wholeness.
It's really interesting that you say that. And what was coming up was, when I go back to the example of dance, I observed that the better you were, the more people liked you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And yes. And so I didn't feel like I belonged outside of the dance world. And I noticed that as I got better, the people that wouldn't even look at me became my friends. And at the time, I was so needing other people's energy and that kind of thing, because I didn't know how to get it myself, and I didn't like myself, that actually made me, that is the number one thing, as I reflect on over 30 years of dance in my life, that was the driving force for me to become a dancer, because I felt like I belonged, and I felt like I was part of the cool club as I got better. So as my pirouettes, as I racked those up, as I racked up skills, as I racked up, befriending choreographers or getting into prestigious schools and things like that, that brought me more attention and more love and more friends. And so that was what I was achieving my whole life. And when I left the dance world, or when things, shifted, my body wasn't performing the same, and I was, choreographing and teaching and doing all that, there was a massive void that wasn't filled because it wasn't in my life. And even once it was time to like walk away, there was still a time frame where then it felt like, well, what's going to fill that? Because I still didn't, a couple years ago, know how to fill that myself. And because that's what I had been doing for 30 years.
And that's when we start binging in any kind of way, right? Binging as in over and under eating, It's so funny that you brought this up. Like, I totally forgot. I was bullied in ballet school, like from like 14 till 15 and a half. And it was nasty. Like 2 levels were like really against me. You're fat, you're ugly, you have pimples, all of that. Teenagers can be cruel.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, it started to dissipate when I started to be pushed by different teachers. Mm-hmm. When I started to just tap into my potential. And you know what? I was at the lowest that I could be. And I really found rescue in working and being in the studio. Because I didn't have anybody else. It was just me. And all of a sudden, I had people that talked to me and looked at me and wanted my time or my love or whatever that was, or at least my body. And I'm like, huh? And I just couldn't make sense of it. But that's where I understood, like, the more successful I am, the more skills I have, the more I will be seen. Yeah. Right. And it is something that I still battle with at times. And where I really have to remind myself, okay, I create that sense of happiness and worthiness and fulfillment. If I can go to bed every night and say, I did the very best I could today, not for somebody else, because I wanted to be seen. No, for me. Of course, we all want love and want to be seen. But when we're trying to create it from a place of lack, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get lack. Yeah. And superficial relationships and dishonesty and all of that, right? So don't prioritize your work over you.
Yeah. That's the very reason I did. Because I didn't see the concept of being able to fill it myself. I only saw the world where it was filled by things and people.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly. And this is where we get to recreate the cycle.
yeah.
We need to take ourselves out of this. Like first we build the awareness. We listen to podcast episodes like ours, and we tap into, hey, where am I at? Well, why are these two ladies talking about this stuff? I'm not there. And we really challenge you to have a look at to what you feel, what do you want to achieve, and why do you want to achieve it? There is nothing wrong with setting goals. All we're asking you to do is, why do you want to get there? What kind of a sense of do you feel you get when you get there? We're also challenging you to, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it to be seen, to get more accolades, to have that pat on the back? And then perhaps listen one more time to this podcast and reassess to, where do you want to be actually? How do you want to feel? Nobody's going to put that oxygen mask on you. And it's a fact. You have to do it yourself. I think Christy and I have been through the reins of what it feels like to be, used and abused, quite honestly, by the system. And we're talking about these topics so you don't necessarily have to. So you are not here at 35 or wherever you're at and completely start recreating who you are. You actually get to meet yourself for the first time. And because that regret is just an awful thing.
Yeah.
I find it took me 2 years to stop regretting my past. And not that it is wasted time, but if we can cut that time in half or even in a quarter, gosh, look at how much more time you gained. And time is our most valuable currency. So yeah, that's what I have for today.
Yeah. I love it. I think that's perfect. Perfectly wrapped up.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think so. There, like you said, it's something to start having the awareness of, but quite simply, the first step, without giving you a laundry list, is to just observe, like, what, if you set 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals, to just look at them and who are they for? That's the biggest thing. And are they for you, but for what reason? Is it because it's your dream to be a certain role, or because you think that role is going to get you somewhere else that's going to make you feel like you matter more, instead of figuring out that you already matter? You matter whether you get that role and you make it to that next level, or you make it to that higher tiered company, or whatever it is. Like, because when you get to that higher tier, because I will tell you from experience, you'll get there, and then there will be some other reason that you don't feel worthy enough. So until you find it yourself, it doesn't matter all of those things you'll check off, you'll still feel the same.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what just came up for me too was that the chasing of getting there. We associate there's only one way to get there. Let's just say, your who and your what and your why are all for the right reasons. Now it's okay, you don't have to get there just through hard work and exhausting yourself and putting it as your number one priority at any given hour during your day. It doesn't have to be that way. I think right now we all are shifting in a way where we're asked different questions, and many people are pivoting again in whatever their business is like or could be like, and finding, okay, if I start again, does that mean I have to put in the 14 hours every day for the next 2 years? Or what other ways can I actually create so I do not have to burn myself out and really dislike myself?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're challenging you, even though the structure maybe is asking you to do all of these things. What can you do differently? How can you even think differently? And what different questions can you ask yourself or your peers? Because it's always better in a group when you're not alone. Like, what can you do differently right now, today? What's that one thing that you can shift?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we have for you today. Thank you for listening. Wanted to remind you that August 28th is the day where we are in New York for the networking event. If you are at that stage of awareness where you can say, you know what, I actually could really do with a community, with some help, with some locking arms with each other, or even just getting to know other performing artists, why don't you just come to New York? Event is completely free, 30 people maximum. And you can just go into my bio and sign up there. All I want is your email address. Okay, thanks guys. Thank you so much for being here. We are sending you so much love. Mwah. Till next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.